You're listening to the Spiritual Activist Radio Show, and today I'm talking with a dear friend from many years now, Dr. Bruce Lipton. And you can always find out more about Bruce at www.brucelipton.com. And to find out more about being a spiritual activist and supporting this show, which is a nonprofit, visit www.spiritualactivist.com. Now, let's see what Bruce has to say, because him and I always hit the ground running, so hang on. So, thank you very much for doing this, Bruce. I know you've been so busy and traveling, and this is really nice.
We've been doing this for years now.
I'm telling you.
How long have we been doing it?
Oh, about
a long time.
Yeah, about 12 years. You were in one of our first issues. Yep, long time ago, Bruce.
Very happy to be there. Very happy to have been there and still be here.
Yeah, it's a blessing. If nothing else, just to see how this thing plays out. Because we're in the most interesting times, at least in this civilization's epoch, ever. Because now we're down to the wire. There is no more decisions on if we should do this. We have to do something. And it really does look like things are going to collapse, which is a good thing, while we still have some resources. We brought a guy here, Richard Heinberg. He wrote books like Peak Oil, Peak Everything. He's a financial expert.
Yeah.
We brought him to the university to give a lecture. Now, he's given this lecture about 2 hours to a bunch of young people, and it's pretty discouraging. So at the end of the lecture, this young girl raises her hand. She goes, excuse me, what should we be taking here to prepare us? And Richard looked around sort of conspiratorial and said, well, I'm at a university, so I sort of hate to say this, but there's nothing here that's going to help you. You need to be close to water, learn how to grow food, build community, and wake up. Because the world you're planning on, it's phasing out. And she goes, oh, it was not the best news.
Well, I've been talking to people a long time about this because I've been telling them that, this evolution is necessary, but the reality is you cannot build a sustainable foundation on the existing structure. It won't work. The structure is corrupt. So the only way to evolve is to have a breakdown of the structure.
Right.
I've been talking about that, and I've been trying to tell people this is good news. You look out, you're all afraid. It's all bad news what you see, and I say, worst news is if that nothing happened, because worst news is we're already on this beeline toward extinction. And when people think of extinction, they think, like evolutionary stuff, 100 years, a million years, or something like that. And it's like, how about a few decades? We're talking some decades here, that. And so the reality is it's up front, it's personal right now. And this is a required period. We need to do this. Otherwise, there will be no moving into the future. Simple as that. So I tell people, I said, well, we have to look at this as good news. This is totally good news because if we're going to build something, we have to build from the bottom. You can't fix the system. System is gone. Start from the bottom.
Yep.
So I've been giving that message a lot, and it's wonderful how many people write back because they say in the ear of all this bad news, everything is bad news. Everything's bad news. It's like, wait, maybe it's not bad news. Stop. Let's look at it from a different perspective because it's actually great news. We're going extinct so fast that we don't have a lot of time to play.
Yeah.
Between now and when it hits the wall.
Sometimes I hear people say, maybe we could fix the system. I go, oh my God, we don't want to fix the very system that put us in this position, And
Absolutely.
Sometimes I look at it like there's an analogy that I use. We built the original building on a foundation that was meant for 10 stories. But now we're up to about 180 stories, and we built this building that the only way it can continue to survive is to keep adding stories on it. It's our financial system. It has to eternally grow, otherwise it can't exist. So now it has to be brought down.
Yeah, and are we on recording now, or are we hanging out? Which one?
We're in
hanging out or recording?
We're recording, but I can edit things out too.
Okay, well, because now what's important to say is to bring this up in regard to your last comment about a system where economics is always growing. This is a completely unsound biological reality that there are no organisms that continuously grow. There are organisms like us. We reach a certain size, and then after that, it's only replacement of what's lost every day. Every day we lose hundreds of billions of cells, and every day we create hundreds of billions of cells. The idea is there's two phases. There's a phase of growth, and then there's a phase of maintenance. Phase of maintenance is a flat line. Right. It says you should just keep it running now. The principle of forever grow, I use in a lecture, I show a rat that was genetically altered in a way that it just keeps eating, right? It gets so big that its little legs are extended out. It's on its stomach. It's so big that its legs can't really touch the ground because it's so big. And it's like, this is the image you're trying to create with an economic principle of continuous growth. It's like, it's completely anti-biological. It's completely, totally destructive to any organism that tries to carry this out. So there has to be a wake-up call in that community of economics that says, wait a minute, your vision of perpetual sustained growth there's nothing on planet Earth that has perpetual sustained growth like that. And therefore it's an anomaly to biology. It doesn't work. So you got to reel it back and say, what would our future be? And I say, our future gets us up to the flat level of saying, here's where we are. And after that, the future is replacement, just replacement technology. Right. And this is really critical. And in fact, I'm working with a friend of mine in Australia about a new book on the economy. And it's relevant to this, is that, of course, my work always focuses on the nature of biology and the fractal character, and that the images are repetitive and all that. And I go, well, then, first of all, let's understand a very simple fact, that there is an economy in the biology. In the body, there's an economy. There's actually money. It's in a physical unit called ATP. It's a unit of energy that the cell can break down that and then use that energy for life functions. Okay, it's the equivalent of money. And I go, well, here's an interesting fact about ATP. Number one, there's no such thing as inflation. Meaning, if I go back in history, I go back 4 billion years, and I say there was a process, let's say a digestion process, taking food A and making it into food B. And I say, how many ATP did that cost? And I say, well, about 4 billion years ago, it cost about, let's say, 10 ATP. I say, okay, it's 4 billion years later. How much does it cost? I say, 10 ATP. Basically, a unit of energy is a constant. Right. And money, fiat money, paper money, is totally not a constant at anything. It changes so fast that those money traders watch every 10 minutes what the hell's going on and the value of the money changing up and down. So number one, our money is false. It doesn't represent energy. It represents a sliding scale, so it's irrelevant. Right. Okay, because today it's $1 is worth $1, and there's no reason why tomorrow morning we could wake up and then they say, today your dollar's worth 15 cents. It's like, what do you mean? ATP is worth ATP. It's always worth ATP. So a real economy is based on a real unit that never changes. Okay, so that's a failure number one. Failure number two is this. In biology, there are 3 levels to the economy. Level 1, first rule, there is no wealth in the system until every cell in the body has the basics of life, until every cell has protection, food, healthcare, whatever is going on in the body. You can't say to these cells, like some skin cells, you say, well, skin cells, they don't do that much. Who needs them? I say, you can't say that. Every cell is needed in the system. So the rule is this. No individual can have wealth as long as there is an individual that doesn't have the basics. So the first level of any economy is everybody gets basics: food, shelter, healthcare. boom, and a job would be really good. Okay, that's basic. Then I say what? Well, if we're very successful in our business efforts, our endeavors, our productivity, then we'll make an excess amount of energy from our activities. So I say, well, we got excess energy. Everybody got covered already. So what about this excess energy? I go, now cells can accumulate some ATP. As long as ATP is available to every cell to get the basics, any extra ATP is now above basic, is called wealth. Okay, now, but here comes the interesting part. You can accumulate ATP in the cell, but it's physical. There's molecules. And I said, well, what's the issue? And I said, how many physical molecules can you store inside a cell? And the answer is not, enough for the cell's immediate life, maybe, but not for 10 lives. It can't store that much. So I say, well, wait a minute. Then an individual cell can only make so much, because beyond that, it's excessive and it doesn't help the individual cell anymore. Matter of fact, it might be a liability. And I say, oh, well, then what do you do with the extra money? Phase 3. Extra proceeds beyond the wealth of the individual is wealth for the community. And it's stored as energy for the entire community. So if you break a leg, there's energy in the bank to fix a leg without anybody saying, well, what are you going to mean? Compromise my job as a liver cell because the leg is broken? I go, hey, the leg is broken. Liver cell's already in jeopardy anyway. So everything works together in community. So 3 levels of economics. A, everybody gets the basics first. If everybody's got the basics, guess what will happen? Reproduction will essentially almost stop. It will go to the normal. I said, what do you mean normal reproduction? Here's a biological fact. In normal biology, every 2 adults provide for 2 offspring. Basically saying that 2 adults provide for 2 offspring. So when 2 adults are gone, left are 2 offspring. The population didn't grow because they're going to have 2 offspring. And then when they go, then, it goes like that. So what's the point? In a normal biological system, a species only replaces itself, stays balanced. When we have a vision of the Darwinian Thomas Malthus principle is like, animals will reproduce faster and faster and faster than the food supply will reproduce. And as a result, there's going to be a struggle for life. Hence, Darwinian theory, survival of the fittest. And the struggle for life is the belief that animal populations will grow excessively while food will have a limited amount of growth. And then that point is too many animals, not enough food, survival of the fittest, war, Darwin, blah, blah. Okay? This is not true. Malthus's idea was completely wrong, that he didn't understand the nature of 2 adults provide for 2 offspring. So a clam can lay 50,000 eggs, but 49,998 of those eggs are never going to make it to the adult stage. That's why 50,000 were let out.
Right.
So the point is only 2. So the idea of Malthus's concept that animals reproduce excessively is not true. That everything would come to a natural balance. I say, yeah, but humans aren't reproducing 2 for 2. I say, here's the story. You ready? This is the beautiful part because we want to deal with population. And I say, well, how are we dealing with population? I say, well, conventional belief is birth control. Just give them some birth control. I go, you guys got it totally wrong. There's something called the biological imperative. The biological imperative is an understanding of the drives that organisms have, the drive for life, the drive for survival. That's built into every organism. You try to kill a bacterium, it's not going to go, okay, kill me. The bacterium will do everything it can do to stay alive, even if you're trying to kill it. So there's a drive. So I say, biological imperative, drive to survive. There's 2 levels of the imperative. 2. Level number 1, survival of the individual, survival of me as an individual. Number 2, survival of the species. I say, survival of me takes care of me. Survival of the species is reproduction. Okay, I say, so here's the point. When you're under threat as an individual, you'll do everything in your capacity to stay alive. That's just natural. You don't die because you give up. You try. But then if there's a threat on this individual and more importantly, a threat on the species, then reproduction is enhanced. Why? Well, if we're going to be getting lost, we better make some more real quickly to see if we can keep it going. Okay, so here's the point. Survival of the individual. Let's say we'll take two countries, India, United States. And I don't even know if it's accurate data, but we'll just go like that. I say the difference between the two in regard to the individual is that in India, there's no Social Security. You get old, you don't have any food, you die. There's no place, nobody's going to give you anything. The government's not going to support you. I say the US, oh, well, we have Social Security. I reach a certain age, I'm still going to live because I will get return back from the government. So I say, well, what's the difference? I say, well, if you live in India and you have no Social Security, and let's say you're getting ripe old age like myself here, and you say, Jesus, how much longer can I work to sustain myself because I'm getting so old I can't work, and then if I can't work, then I'm going to die. So I said, wait, but if I have a kid, then the kid could work, and the extra amount that the kid makes is Social Security for me. So my child will help support my life. I go, yeah, that's true. I say, yeah, but in India, it's so close to the edge that every individual just about makes exactly enough for their own life. There's not a lot left over for that. And I say, oh, compensation. Not have one kid, have 5 kids. Why? If each one of you can give you a little tiny bit, 5 can give you a lot. So the idea is this: where there's no Social Security, the biological imperative in our world of social world is to have more kids, because more kids will be Social Security. And so in India, you might have 5 or 6 kids in a family. Why? Because that's what the parents need to sustain themselves when they get old. I go, what about in the US? I say, less than 2 kids. We have like 1.5 or something like that, 1.5 kids. It's even less than the normal 2. I say, why less? And the answer is, I don't need kids to support me when I get old. I'm okay. Okay, so one way of dropping reproduction, it's not birth control. That's irrelevant. But that just clouds the issue. The way of dropping reproduction is security. If I know I'm going to be secure, I don't need to raise 5 or 6 kids. Okay, and it's demonstrated in every Western country that has security. Yep. They don't have hundreds of kids. They got a few kids. Okay. So number one, if we would just provide economy level number one that we talked about, everybody gets the basics, then the biological imperative, the drive to survive, will be accommodated for the individual. Okay. But then now part 2, if the species is under threat, then the species is going to reproduce faster and younger to keep itself alive. Well, we're under threat. Not psychological. It's below that. It's a physiological response. It says we as a species, we as every species on this planet is under threat because of the environmental upheaval. So we will have a tendency to reproduce faster, not consciously, not conscious. I'm not thinking about it. It's just a biological imperative. Something's wrong. I know it. I'm not going to have sex because I know it. That's just a circuitous connection that you'll have sex anyway. But underneath it is why are you reproducing more? And the answer is because there's a threat. So number one is our reproduction problem is the problem of a population growing ever greater and greater and greater. But the population grows greater because there's less security in the biological imperative of those that are alive seeking security by having more kids. That would stop if rule 1 of the economy, everybody gets the basics, is already included. That means why would I reproduce? What the hell do I need to provide for all these kids until they get old enough? I don't need to do that. I'm okay.
Yeah, and it seems like this is actually playing out pretty well in places like the Netherlands. You know, they have pretty good security for old age, health insurance, and their population seems to be staying pretty stable, you know?
Yes. That's the destination. So when we look at it and everybody's talking about this population growing and growing is going to create a problem, I go, of course it's going to create a problem, but we're creating the problem to make that problem, because there wouldn't be that population explosion if people were secure.
Right.
And since we live in a world that screw those millions of Africans that are dying of starvation at this minute, while we're throwing away food into the street, is an understanding that says we are not a unified world of people, which is where the destination of our evolution is bound. That I don't care what country you come from, we are all cells in the body of a super-organism called humanity. Now, humanity is in a state of formation. That's the civilization upheaval, where we're going to let go of the borders, the boundaries, and start to recognize, I don't care where you are, if you're a human on this planet, you're part of us. I mean, in California, very interestingly, we put so much effort into anti-pollution laws, and we dropped the level of pollution in cities like LA, and because of our strict rules on pollution. And now there's a sharp spike in the rising of pollution. You know what? It's not coming from LA. It's coming from China. It's coming from India and China. And it basically says their air pollution is coming to us. Yep. And so the point is this. That's, again, the wake-up call that says, if you're a human on this planet, you're connected to every other human, no matter what way you want to look at it, be it economics or air, water, whatever it is. So the evolution is the breakdown of the barriers that separate people, to recognize we're all in the same boat, baby. To go to India and see people breathing air that you can see, it's like, oh my God, this is like perpetual smog here, because nobody's taking care of the situation. There's a point that it's a wake-up call.
Yeah,
so we're facing
in China, there's towns where it's so bad you can only see like 50 to 100 feet. I remember I used to own a recycling center in San Diego. People would bring in all their wire, and it either has to be stripped or burned off. I found out that all of our wire was being shipped to China, and they just burned it off into the atmosphere. All of the plastic and all of the insulation, everything. Yeah. So Bruce.
So this is the issue.
So Bruce.
Yes.
I was just thinking, like, getting into the Three Amigos. I've been actually. This is going to be our next issue. It's with Joe Dispenza, and I've been really getting into this, and it seems like the information that you, Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, you're all coming at this from different angles, but this information, I really think that it's rewiring our brain. And as it's rewiring my brain, as I'm doing the meditations to sort of like cancel out some of the old programming, I'm actually starting to see a different world. And sometimes I wonder, is it just my perception, or is the world actually changing around me? What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, it is our perception, because it's the only way we can deal with the world is through our perception. And we have to change our perceptions because we've been programmed with misperceptions. And these misperceptions, by continuing this programming that's a more ancient, it was good in the beginning. We needed some programming to get us off the ground. But this continuous perception of a Darwinian world of it's me against you, survival of the fittest, screw everybody else, is so short-sighted and leading to the death of civilization, with countries competing against each other. It's like, you can't compete. It's like your stomach competing with your pancreas. It's like, hey, screw the pancreas. We need more cells and more stuff down here. The pancreas, who cares about? It's like, what do you mean, who cares about the pancreas? Pancreas, every organ is part of the system. So, I would say, well, hey, take a system. Let's eliminate an organ system today. Okay, you pick one and just tell me which one you don't want. We're going to get rid of it. It's sort of like Trump. Hey, let's pick EPA. We don't want that one. It's like, okay, take your lungs, throw them out. We don't need the lungs. It's like, what? Point is that this world, based on false perceptions of a Darwinian belief that life is based on a struggle, which is completely not, because life is derived from the Garden of Eden, garden. It was a garden before we messed it up. A garden, by definition, is not a battleground. A garden, by definition, is total cooperation of every organism in the garden. And therefore, we came from a garden, have broken it up into battlegrounds, put borders and barriers between these structures, and try to live this way. It's like, no. The borders and things have to come down. So I guess here's the important part. We are in the process of evolution. We are in the process of breaking down the old structure because we can't survive. We're already facing the wall. It says you can't do this anymore. It says, well, then what are you going to do? It says you got to do something different now. Well, crisis provokes evolution because crisis says you hit the wall. Evolution means you got to do something different now. And I say, well, what's going to be different? I go, the difference is this, that the human population on the entire planet is every human is a cell in the forming structure of a new organism called humanity, which is a super-organism, that the nervous system of this humanity has been established. It's called the internet. The internet is what connects 7.5 billion cells into one thing, okay? But it also provided for a new generation. And the new generation, this millennial generation, I say, what's different? Millennial generation, previous generation, what's different? The answer is this. The millennial generation grew up with computers. The millennial generation sees no borders. When they talk to somebody on a computer, it could be from China, it could be from Russia, it could be from India. The computer, I can talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime. So their world when they grew up was not the narrow world of their parents, which were restricted to who they knew in the neighborhood. That was what it's all about. The global community is called the millennials. Now, here's an issue, because the millennials are the ones that are going, oh, woe with me. I paid all this money for education and I can't get a job. And my parents have a 5-car garage. I'm sharing an apartment with 3 other people because none of us can afford it. And they're like, oh, we're left out. We're left out. And I go, precisely. That is the most important step of evolution. The millennials are pushing the evolution for this reason. Simple fact, just simple. A government can only stand in regard to how many people support the government.
Yep,
when you get less than 50,
and the millennials aren't invested in the old system, so in a sense, the old system is unknowingly maybe building into it a system of self-destruction.
It's in process right now, because you go to a millennial and you say, hey, the stock market's going to crash. And they'll look at you and go, like I own a stock? Like, well, I don't own a stock. I don't give a crap about the stock market. I go, yeah, less than 50% of the people do. And the result is there's an entire generation that is, I think, at least 50% or more of the world's population at this moment, which is not connected to their structure. Everywhere, right. Arab Spring, young people, I'm not connected. Look, I look on a computer, I see people in Hollywood, and I look at the guy here in the desert in the sand. I go, what's this all about? They have no border. So Arab Spring was, I want what they have on the other side of the world. Right. So the point is this, the millennials are the key to this evolution. Interesting, at their moment of assembly at this point, they don't see who they are, or they don't see how powerful they really are. Because all they're invested in is, I have nothing and I owe all this money for education and I can't get a job, okay? And so I say, yep, they're not part of the system. And that is the most important part of the evolution. They're not part of the system.
Yeah, and it almost, it almost seems like they also see the insanity of polarities. And in that sense, I think I just wrote an article called Walking on the Razor's Edge. And it's about maintaining balance, looking at the left, looking at the right, but maintaining this other balance of consciousness. And it's a precarious way to live. It's almost like, remember riding a bike? When you first start riding a bike, you do it with your left brain. Oh, I'm falling to the right. And you fall down back and forth. But then there's that magic moment when your body-mind shifts in. And now all of a sudden you're riding the bike and you realize that only a few moments ago, what was inevitable, falling, has now become impossible. And I think that's going to happen to us as a collective consciousness if we can keep getting this information out there, because it's not exactly fake it till you make it, but in a way, we're trying out this new way of thinking, and I see it changing. Yes. In different levels. Like it used to be that scientists if you wanted to be a scientist and come up with a new idea, Pythagoras, Copernicus, Newton, Einstein, they all stood on the shoulders of who came before. And in religion, the Jesus and the Buddha, they were like a new vision, and Jesus wasn't dependent on Buddha. But now I see something happening with especially quantum physicists. This is merging. It's merging into something totally different, because I was listening to the radio the other day, and this guy was talking. I think it was Brian Greene, and I thought I was listening to a preacher, or a priest, or some avatar. Then all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, he's a quantum physicist. So everything is changing right now. It's so interesting.
Yeah, but this is a civilization upheaval. This is a fact, and this is exciting. Because if it doesn't undergo an upheaval, well, then enjoy the last remaining bits of life on this planet for us, because it's not sustainable. It's not going to work, period. I mean, they took a survey of all the animals, the population of animals on this planet. In 1970, they took a survey. How many animals are in nature? Fish and animals. How many are out there? Come up with a number. They recently did this again. And here's the issue. 62% of that population has disappeared since 1970.
That's a lot.
There's only 38% of the animals, 2/3 of life has disappeared since 1970. It's like, wake up. This is what is called a mass extinction. And it's not the first mass extinction.
Yeah.
The five times life was thriving, and then something, catastrophic just broke it apart. The last one, the dinosaurs, apparently was a comet hit the planet and upended the environment and wiped out life, and that's the way it goes. Today, the data is we're losing species of organisms faster right. than in the previous 5 mass extinctions, and then the bigger problem is we now know that the cause of this mass extinction is human behavior. It's like, Jesus, we're killing ourselves. It's like, yep. And the point about it is, it's already clear. This is not like, could be happening. It is happening. The 2048 is a date scientists have come to. I think it's conservative, that there will be no fish in the ocean.
Yeah.
In 2048, that's like science fiction. Planet Earth, no fish in the ocean.
Yeah,
what?
I know. And if you tell somebody this, they'll say, "Oh no, our civilization will never go extinct." And you go, "Wait a minute, it always has." As we go back in the past, that's the reason we don't have any ancient civilizations. They're all in ruins and buried under 10, 15 feet of mud and slush, because they have been here also. And we need to learn our lesson and realize that if we don't, because I think we've created a civilization, Bruce, that is far too complex for our 3D monkey minds to figure out. We have to shift. If we don't shift into like Einstein said, we're never going to come up with the solutions to the same level that created the problems. It's totally right. If we don't shift into this other level of awareness, because that's where the answers are. We don't know the answer now. You and I could sit here and talk all day long, and every answer we would come up to would actually cause a little bit of a disturbance in some other area. The real answers lies beyond our everyday thinking right now.
Right, but this is the beautiful part. In physics, there's something called emergence. Emergence means this. You can study all these different pieces of something, but when they come together, when pieces come together, they can create something that you could never have imagined from studying any of the individual pieces. So, for example, I could study a resistor, I can study a transistor, a capacitor, I can study these parts, and I can know all about these parts, but I don't understand about the radio. The radio is when the parts all come together. Looking at all the individual parts, I don't see a radio in the parts. They have to come together. So emergence is new properties arise when individuals get together in a community. I'll give you an example. How many people did it take to create a computer? And the answer is over 50,000 individual discoveries were required to create a computer. I say you can't have 50,000 discoveries with a population of 5,000 people. It's never going to happen.
Right.
But as the population gets bigger, the number of contributing factors is greater. And there's an emergence is what physics talks about. When you bring enough together, there'll be characteristics or developments that you could never anticipate or imagine in the previous state. The guy who created the capacitor could never have envisioned a radio, much less a computer, come from that capacitor.
Right.
It wasn't there. Knew everything about a capacitor, but didn't know anything. So what we're finding today is as the world comes together, the more people that come together with divergent points of views offers the greater opportunity for emergence. That is the definition. So in other words, you can look at a human cell and say, where's consciousness in there? I say, well, I can't really show you the kind of consciousness you're talking about. Why? Because it takes 50 trillion cells to make that. I can't show it to you in a single cell. It's the assembly of cells. So what we're seeing is an emergence. And I can give you an example because the United States was the precursor of planetary evolution. You go, why? I go, wait, look. Before the United States, every country was like a culture dish. The cells in that, the people in that dish bred with each other. The French bred with the French. The Germans bred with the Germans. The English bred with the English. And they created some great traits individually. But the significance was they reached the limit of what they could do as individuals in that plate. There's something called hybrid vigor. And those that grow corn know this. That the corn that you eat is not purebred corn. It's hybrid corn. You take two different kinds of species, bring them together, and the hybrid is what you eat, okay? The hybrid is stronger than the pure. And this comes when people talk about dogs. The mutt is stronger than the purebred, okay? And that is because bringing the traits together is stronger than just breeding one trait. Because you breed one trait, you also breed weakness into that trait as well. So I say, okay, hybrid vigor. I say, United States, hybrid vigor. Why? The United States was not created by one country. The United States, in its fullest glory, was created by residents of countries from all over the planet coming together to share their awareness of their own worldview in a collected combined population. So the United States is hybrid vigor in regard to civilization. Why? It didn't have the purities. It took all of the individuals, put them together, shake them together, and said, oh, look what you created when you brought it all together. I say, the model of the future of planetary evolution is the United States. When everybody in the world starts to recognize we're all part of one country, then we work together. And as we work together, emergence is going to create things that, as you just said before, you and I could sit here and have all this conversation and never see where the answer is because we're just two out of, the billions that are necessary. And so we're moving into an area where the advances of evolution are so great that in regard to our technology, yesterday's technology may be outdated by this afternoon. That's how fast the changes are occurring.
Yep.
But the changes are not just in technology, the changes are in all aspects of life. So I'm saying, then the civilization that we're building into will have more potential than any previous civilization. And the fact is, and I wanted to bring this up because my friend Greg Braden, the three amigos, he talks about a place in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe. I don't know if you've written about that in the magazine or not.
I've read about it, though.
Yeah. Well, let me just say something. Our conventional wisdom, which is incorrect, most of it is the history of the world, is that civilization started like in the Babylonia, Tigris, Euphrates, the cradle of civilization. 5,000 BC was like the beginning of civilization. And it's like Göbekli Tepe was a massive civilization that disappeared 10,000 years ago. It's like You were thinking civilization started 5,000 years ago. There was a vast civilization here 10,000 years ago. Most interesting because it still hasn't been, nobody understands what happened. Where are these people? What happened? And what's interesting is we talk about, oh, civilizations get covered up over erosion for millions of years. The dirt and everything covers it up, and then you have to dig down and find it. This city is buried. But you know what was interesting? It wasn't buried by erosion. It was buried by the population.
Yep.
They actually took dirt and rocks and everything and filled in the buildings.
Yeah.
Filled up the buildings, made a hill over the whole. Nobody could see.
One of the things that makes that really interesting is, one, they can carbon date a lot of the things because it's been covered. Yep. But it makes you really wonder, because with all the circles, it looks like there's some kind of coded information there that they almost wanted to cover up, knowing that it would be covered for millennia, and the people that would uncover it might figure it out. There's some kind of information there that we need to decipher.
Well, clearly, I mean, the fact that the civilization existed before we even thought before we even thought it evolved, the massive civilization existed and left. And interesting, in the carbon dating, the end of that civilization is linked to climate change. And then you look at it and go, why? Well, I say, well, look where Göbekli Tepe is now. It's in Turkey. I go, yeah, very arid, dry, nothing grows there and all that. And I say, yeah, there was a massive civilization there. What it meant was they had lush crops. They could grow and live there. Climate change. You can't grow anymore. Well, then you can't sustain a civilization here anymore because there's no food. And that's when it left at some point. We have to see that this is happening right now. We're facing this climate change. Yep. Not predictable what's going to happen. And especially, I'm a Californian. Interesting. People say, because I'm out of the country a lot, where are you from? I go, the country of California. Because it's like, I don't want to say the United States anymore. I just go the country of California. And they all know, because everyone knows California is not the regular piece of the United States. It's its own thing. Yep. And so I'm very proud of California in that regard. And, all the advances we made and trying to keep the environment clean and safe and things that are much more advances than anywhere else. Well, but the relevance about all this is that this structure is coming to an end, and California is going to be an important part of that because of a simple fact. 52% of the food in the United States comes from California. Now that we're in the 6th year of the drought, even though we had torrential rain this year, that rain and stuff is really good, except that the ground was so dry that the water mainly ran off. It didn't go down, it ran off. So it rained a lot, but it's not deep dirt, it's surface water.
Yeah, the water problem is the aquifers that are going dry that takes thousands of years to fill up. Like if we would stop sucking all the water out, wait a few hundred years, we'd be in better shape. But the rainwater basically runs off or just soaks in or evaporates. We need like a lot of years of this kind of rain to really start filling up aquifers again.
Yeah, or the evolution of new technology, which is in our forefront with so many people around the globe working on the concept. There will be resolutions of this technology that we have to plan for the climate change, not go under the belief that if we stop doing something today, everything will come back. It's like, it's not coming back.
Yeah.
It's changed. And just as much as Göbekli Tepe had to bury itself under the fact that nobody could live there, Los Angeles isn't that far away from doing the same thing. Yeah. There's no water. What are you going to do down there? Stuff like that. So we have lessons to learn from the previous ones. And we are in the process of this learning right now. And that, look, you and I, as part of the elders.
How did that happen?
The elders are people. We just got old. We were having a good time, then we got old. But the fact is this, we carry with us the thinking that was hatched in 1969 when a new civilization was seeded. Today's millennial generation came from the spawn
right.
of 1969. And that was when there was a global evolution that started, but you couldn't see it because the beginning of the evolution is not really apparent to most people, only when it reaches a critical stage. So because everything is fractal and everything has a repetitive pattern, look at human civilization as a multicellular organism. That's what it is. We are cells. Civilization is a multicellular organism. And I go, oh, well, then in the evolution of animals, because civilization is not a plant, it's an animal organism, there's a pattern. Fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals, a pattern of vertebrate evolution. And before that was invertebrate. And invertebrate means supported from the outside. Mm-hmm. Vertebrate is supported from the inside. I go, before technology, civilization was invertebrate. The support didn't come from anything that people were doing. The support came because the fruit was on the trees. If there was food on the ground, we got some food. We only ate because it came from the outside. We didn't do anything. We just lived from the support from the outside. But once we started to use our intelligence, we started to create technology. And technology is what allowed us to then go into the vertebrate level, support from the inside, not waiting for the environment to help us, but from our intelligence, creating what we can do for the environment. So the first phase was called mariculture. That was the early phase where ships went from coast to coast to coast. I said, mariculture is the fish phase of human civilization. Why? Because we had to live where the water was. There was no way. You can't go inland if you don't have any water. You got to stay where the water is. So we thrived off the farming the water and the sea. Okay? But then technology evolved to take the water with us into land, or find the water, or create the water, dig wells, aquifers, whatever, do these things. I say, that led to leaving the water and going on the land. I go, that's amphibians. Amphibians created agriculture based on what? The ability to not have the water restricted at the coast, but to take the water with them wherever they go, so that they were no longer restricted to the water. They are now on land.
Right.
So amphibians, the agriculture came from mariculture. And I go, then what? And I say, the next generation of civilization grew up on the land. Didn't grow up in the water like the tadpoles. They just grew up on the land. So they were developed for land versus the previous ones, which were water to land. So these were the small things called reptiles. Reptiles were created as animals of the land. Their technology of living on the land is far greater than any amphibians technology, because amphibians lived in two worlds, but reptiles. So I said, well, what did the reptiles start out as? I said, they started out as little tiny lizards. And I said, then what happened to them? I said, then they became giant dinosaurs. I go, how'd that happen? And here's how it happened. The ability to live on land created behaviors. I say, cool. I say, look, here's the hind leg of a lizard, 5-inch lizard. See, it does this movement. I go, great. And I say, here's the hind leg of a 50-foot dinosaur. It does the same thing. It just took the template of the 5-inch lizard and blew it up into 50 feet. I go, yeah, it's the same thing. Only one problem. The physical body got bigger, but the brain didn't get bigger. The brain stayed small because why? It was just running the same reflexes that it did as a 5-inch lizard. Move the leg. That's all it has to do. I say, there's a problem. The body gets so massive that the intelligence of the system would have trouble maintaining it if the environment changes. Because if the environment changes, you have to have a lot of awareness to jump into the game to change the system. But so you look at it and say, look, mom and pop shops were the beginning of corporations. They were small lizards that came together. But then they grew bigger and bigger. And then they made factories. Then they made big corporations. I go, yeah, these grew bigger and bigger. Corporation's a dinosaur of a lizard. That's what it was. But the intelligence never got any better either. That's how General Motors could make a Humvee in the midst of an oil crisis. Humvee gets 8 miles to the gallon at most. Is like, who the hell builds a car that gets 8 miles to the gallon when you can't get any gasoline? It's like, dinosaur builds that, I say, but here's the interesting part. The reptilian civilization is run by, and euphemistically, it's called the blood of the dinosaur.
Yeah.
Oil. Okay, so our industrial civilization is reptilian. And reptiles, they eat their own young. Enron, big corporation ate its own workers. It's like, wow, that's reptilian.
Yeah.
But then from reptiles, we went fish, mariculture, amphibians, agriculture, reptiles, industrial civilization, birds. 1900, Wilbur and Orville Wright became the first birds. The evolution of the birds went to 1969 because the bird then landed on the moon. The bird phase of civilization, aviation.
The eagle has
1900,
landed.
1969. And I said, what happened? They took a picture of the Earth on the moon's horizon and sent that back home. Birds have perspective. You see, that's what animals don't have. Birds are up here. Right. They look down and see what's going on. So the perspective of the aviation world, the bird world, of landing on the moon led to a picture of the Earth. And you were back there and I was back there. And what happened when that picture showed up? Everybody went, oh my God, that's all there is? Is this beautiful little blue-green thing in the middle of all that blackness? That's all there is. And all of a sudden we hippies came up with the idea of, well, we better take care of this place. We better take care of the water, and we better take care of the air and take care of each other and take care. And I go, take care, isn't that called nurturing? I go, yeah. I say, the reptiles led to the birds, landed on the moon, took a picture of the Earth. The picture precipitated a new belief system called nurturing, which were mammals. The first mammals were the hippies.
Right.
I go, yeah, but here's the problem. The first mammals were created when the dinosaurs were here. And when the dinosaurs were here, the mammals were called the meek. They had no power. They had nothing. The dinosaurs squished them. They didn't care, But guess what? The dinosaurs die. Why? First of all, they're running out of blood. The blood that keeps this thing running isn't working anymore. We're running out of blood. That's a coming end of a reptile. I go, what happens when the reptiles crash? I say, the meek take over the Earth. I say, who are the meek? Well, we were the mammals in 1969, the few of us, the little furry guys. But today, we have the millennial generation, which is a derivative of the mammal generation. And they now reach a size and a power that at the edge of the corporations beginning to fall. Why? Reptiles. They couldn't run the whole thing. They couldn't accommodate the change. We're in the middle of change. They can't accommodate the change. Only the mammals can do this. And all of a sudden I said, what does that mean? I said, nurturing comes back in as the primary thing. Not the industrial raping of the planet, but nurturing. And so we are now breeding a generation of people who see no borders, who don't have race bias as much as their parents, don't have religious bias as much as the parents, see a connectivity of everything, a wholeness, and the idea is their lives are threatened, and they know they have to take care of themselves. So what we're seeing is the evolution, the manifestation of mammals as the dominant class, and the loss of the big reptiles, the big corporations, as the collapsing previous phase of civilization, reptiles. So we're in the history where the dinosaurs were falling and the meek were rising. And here we are today. And some of us meek were the ones that were here in 1969.
Right.
That still remember this call for nurturing.
And
that are doing it now.
I can see that generation in 1969 where everything was clear. Hell no, I won't go. When we found out what it was about. I can see that energy awakening in my kids who's approaching 50 years old right now. They sort of lost it for years, but now they're starting to wake up to it. And my grandkid, he's totally a millennial kid. And he's like deeply embedded in it. So I have me from this side reminding them of their past, and the grandkid looking at the parent and reminding them of the future. So we're like all working together to bring in something totally different. Hey, Bruce, one thing I wanted to ask you about before we get run out of time or something, is vaccinations. What do you think?
Yes.
What do you think is behind that? Because obviously we can't keep doing this. Otherwise, it's going to take the total population to take care of autistic kids, and that's not where we want to go. What do you think is behind it?
No, money.
Yeah.
Big money, massive money. Who's paying for all the vaccines? Who's paying for the production? Who's paying for the research on the vaccines? Who's paying for distributing all the vaccines? Millions and millions, billions of dollars. And I go, is this for the people? And I say, no, it's never been for the people. It's been for the corporations. The corporations, people have to understand, there's a law, and this is a law, that the function of a corporation is to make a profit for the shareholders. Rule number one. Any other rule after that is based on rule number one.
Right.
You have to make a profit for the shareholders. If you're a corporation and you don't make that profit for the shareholders can just pull the whole corporation right down. So when you see people investing in healthcare, I say, investing in healthcare, what does that mean? I say, well, I put money into this healthcare like Kaiser Permanente or one of these things. I say, yeah, why did I put my money in it? I'm investing. What do you mean? Well, if I give them money, they give me money back. I go, wait, what does that mean? I say, well, for healthcare has to make a profit, because if you don't make a profit, then you can't pay off these people. I say, wait. How do you make a profit in healthcare? You charge more than the services you provide. I go, wait a minute. A person is sick, and while they're down, you're going to kick them to get extra money from them while they're sick. Does that fit the word compassion? I say, are you kidding me? That's zero compassion. As long as you could pay me for the hospital room, you could have the surgery. If you don't have the surgery, you could die on the street. I don't really care anymore. It's like,
yeah.
Uh-oh. Beautiful part. You ready?
Go ahead.
I'll finish it with this. The word humane, human, humanity, the root is compassion. Humane is compassion. So I said, wait, then the function of the medical industry is not compassion. The function of the medical industry is profit. I go, yeah. I say, at the cost of what? Compassion not relevant. Well, wait. And here's the conclusion then. Let me describe today's healthcare. It's inhumane. It's inhumane by definition. Why? You are making a profit off of sick people.
Yep.
It's like, what?
Yeah, I remember
that is not human at all.
That's one of the things. One of the things that Hemingway said is, he said we should never make profit off of people's sufferings.
I think Jesus may have said that, even though I don't know what the hell he said, but it sounds like something he would have said too. But I don't know. But here's the reality then. Now, part two. Problem, part one. This is inhumane. They're only doing it for the money, and they don't give a damn what are the consequences. A pharmaceutical industry will do a test on a drug. Fact. If they test a drug and they find that people die, it doesn't mean they're not going to market the drug. The next thing they do is calculate. How much of the drug do I sell versus how much would I have to pay for the death of those people? And if they sell more drugs to make enough profit, then the death of the people is incorporated into the sale of the drugs, going, oh yeah, we already paid for that because we already made enough money to pay the lawsuits for the people that we killed. So we're going to kill people, but we're going to make a lot of profit. It's like, holy crap, that's how they do it. So basically it's like, what about the public individual? It's like, screw the public individual. It's how much money we're going to make. So that's vaccines. Number two, this is more important biologically. It is a violation of the system to inject anything under the skin, because the system is designed with sentries at every portal, that anything can come into the body. There are sentries that read what's going on and then organize the community to make a response. When you stick something under the skin, you bypass all the sentries. It's like, where the hell did that come from? If you're in the population of 50 trillion cells and all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of crap around you, pollution that's killing you and all, where the hell did that come from? Nobody knows why. No sentry saw it, okay? So here's the problem. two problems now, A and B's. So we have number one problem is corporations making money. Number two, biological problems, A and B of that. A, number one, the system isn't designed to respond to stuff injected under the skin. That was never the way it was designed. Number two, an immune system is not mature until at least 3 or more years of age. So when you give an infant a vaccine, you're giving it in an infant that is not biologically prepared to deal with that immune system outrage. Okay? They're not ready yet. The system isn't evolved. You're gonna push in so much crap into the system that you're gonna distort the system because it's in a developmental phase. It's not ready yet. Number three, or C in this case, ABC, there's already a natural immunization system built into biology. It was built in. I said, what is that? I say, tonsils. I said, what are tonsils? 99% of the people, including medicine, has completely the wrong idea. They say tonsils are for protection. So as things go down your throat, the tonsils are going to launch an attack and wipe out the bad things. That's what people believe. I go, first of all, this is totally false. A tonsil is not blocking things out. A tonsil has channels open to the outside. I said, why would it do that? I said, because it's sampling what the hell is coming in. If it didn't want to sample it, there would be no conduit between the outside to the inside of the tonsil. But it's open. I said, why? And then I go, why do infants, think about this, stick everything they can into their mouth? Anything in their reach, from dirty diapers to crib parts to toys to a foot, their own hand, anything can get into that mouth. This is not an accident. It happens to all infants. It's nature's vaccination process. The tonsils are learning centers. The infant sticks everything into its mouth to what? Learn about the environment. And so the child's immune system works till about 12, creating, active processes. Around 12, it starts shutting itself down. I say, why? In the world when we evolved, by around 12, you've sampled your environment. You've sampled everything in your environment. Your immune system has had everything that you live in the world around you in its mouth. That's why I put it in there. Why? Because everything that goes in the mouth, a small part of it goes into the tonsil. The tonsil then reads that information and creates an immune response to this, okay? So the relevance is there's a natural vaccination process. It's called oral. And that's how it works. The whole system is designed. That's what the hell the tonsils are for. They're not protection centers. They're learning centers. I say relevance. You grow up in an environment, you read the environment. You have all the ability to understand everything in your environment. I go, you mean just to find out the bad things? I go, no. You eat a banana, and that system is going to tell you every chemical that came from that banana. The biology will break it down. It'll have like a Rolodex. What came from banana? Oh, potassium, a lot of potassium. That's good. I go, why? Because when it learns what foods are in it and where things are necessary to find, if you're short on potassium, all of a sudden you got, oh, I feel like having a banana. It's like, that wasn't a coincidence. That was a system saying, you're low in potassium. Bananas have high potassium. Go eat a banana. Yep. Or kids eat dirt. Why kids eat dirt? There's minerals in the dirt that are not provided through their diet. And they eat dirt not because they love to eat dirt. They eat dirt because there's a biological necessity to get the minerals. The system has eaten dirt, knows what's in the dirt, and says, if I need that element, then go eat some dirt. So the whole idea about it is this. The vaccine problem is a problem due to the greed of the pharmaceutical industry and the investors in that system. That it bypasses everything normal about human understanding, human development. Yes, we do have an immune system, and it's a damn smart thing. And it works without jeopardizing you, because everything it's learning is through the tonsils. Now, occasionally somebody gets something called tonsillitis, and it picks up something that even the tonsil can't manage because it took it out from the environment, put it in this special place, and all of a sudden found, oh, it's out of control. Tonsillitis, okay? But that's rare.
Yeah.
Compared to everything else. I mean, so basically it says you have a natural immune system. If they would make vaccines that were oral vaccines, then I would say, fine, go ahead and do all the oral vaccines you want. But when you bypass the skin and go underneath and put something inside, the entire intelligence of that system, which is super intelligent, is bypassed. Where did this infection come from? God knows. We don't know where it came from. Nobody saw it come in. We don't know how it got here. The system is confused. That confusion leads to all kinds of side effects, which alter the activity of the immune system and throw a monkey wrench in the physiology of the individual.
And some of the vaccines are absolutely crazy. Do you know that they give a vaccine for hepatitis to a newborn, and it's only good for 5 or 6 years? So are they thinking that they're going to protect that newborn from a sexually transmitted disease in kindergarten? What's the thinking there? It's little
How much money can we make?
It's little things like this that gives them away. These people are sociopaths. Yeah. They don't really have the ability. It's not that they're bad people. They don't have the ability to be empathetic and compassionate with other people. That's the reason they can get up and do things like this. Things that you and we would never think about. Hey, Bruce, let's start getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and plotting and scheming on how to make people sick and make money off of them. It's not even on our reality, but these people actually do this. They plot and scheme to do this.
But you see, there's a cultural belief behind this that encourages it, and it's an error of our culture. And it's a culture based on Darwinian theory. And Darwinian theory is a theory that said that life is a struggle. There's not enough for everybody, so you're going to have to fight. And survival is based on you being better than the other ones, more fit. Well, in a world of materialism, more fit means how much more money do you have? So then there's a drive, inherent, cultural, created, that says, I have to get up every day and go out there and make that money to survive. Any way I can make the money, the means to the end is not part of Darwinian theory. The end is make more money. How you get there? That's not part of the theory. Any damn thing you want to do to make more money, steal it, whatever you want to do, counterfeit it, I don't really care. You make more money? Oh, you're playing the game. Okay? And the reality is, this is a Darwinian belief of scarcity and struggle.
Yeah.
And it turns out evolution was not based on scarcity. It was based on harmony and community, which is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So we have enculturated a belief.
I've always liked your definition of competition too, of competing with that which is smarter, greater, and stronger to get, but not using it to suppress and destroy others,
Yeah. It was competition was to work together. It's to strive together.
Right.
So if I'm a tennis player, and I'm not, but the idea is, let's say I'm a tennis player and I found that there's another person who really sucks. I say, geez, I like to play them all the time because I beat them all the time. I go, yeah, but that game sucks. If you're a tennis player, it's like you're not even trying. So the idea of a tennis player is not to play the weakest one. The idea of the tennis player is to play the strongest one. Why? Not to beat the strongest one at the end.
Right.
But to make my game better, I have to have somebody challenge me to push me to do it better. So the idea of competition wasn't for me to kill the winner to kill the loser. The competition was to make the winner work harder and strive more than the loser. But the loser doesn't lose either, because if the winner finds a way of doing it better, then even the loser will get that option as well. So
Bruce,
the competition part is different than what we are used to.
Bruce, you took the red pill, didn't you? I can tell.
Yeah, and I tell you the truth, I'm not going back.
Right.
Because, people think, well, Bruce, you're crazy with your beliefs. And I go, before they were scientifically established, because look, I came into this epigenetics in 1970, and epigenetics wasn't even an established science until 1990. I had 20 years where people would call me crazy, but I'd have to say, I have a choice. I can continue being crazy doing the things I'm doing now because of what I believe, or I can let go of my crazy beliefs and go back and do what you're doing. And then I look at them and I go, who the hell wants to go back that way?
That would be
They're
crazy.
sickly. I'm going to stay with the red pill. And fortunate enough that the ideas I had come out to be the new science. So it's like, oh, cool. I was there 20 years ahead of those people. That's great. Why? I've had a fabulous 20 years of living on this planet, to tell you the truth. Why? Letting go of those foundational beliefs that were the drive force in my earlier, younger life that I acquired from all those teachers around me, and left that system and walked out going, I'm out. I'm okay. And guess what? It was much nicer outside than it was inside. So it's like red pill every day.
So how much do you think, Bruce, just on a personal kind of a level, how much do you think falling in love has been in your life to take you where you're at right now?
Falling in love is one of the scientifically shown ways of expressing the red pill, meaning that on a regular day-by-day basis, the average person runs their life 5% with the conscious creative mind, mindful, it's like Buddhist mindfulness, conscious mind. But during a normal day, 5%. And I say, why is it relevant? Conscious mind's wishes and desires. I go, well, it's only working 5% of the day. Then what's controlling my life 95% of the day? I go, subconscious. And I go, yeah, but what's unique? I said, subconscious programs. I was programmed. And so 95% of the day I'm running from the program. I say, when did you get the programs? Before age 7. I go, why? Where did you get them from? By recording other people's behaviors. My mother, my father, siblings, and community. I record how they respond, download that, and then it becomes my behavior. I go, then the subconscious programs don't necessarily express your wishes and desires. They just express the behaviors of other people. I go, absolutely. And most cases, 70% or so of those downloaded programs are disempowering, self-sabotaging, or limiting on us as individuals. And the fact is this, we have been programmed. So The Matrix is not science fiction. It's a documentary. Not one person alive got here without being programmed. The first 7 years is programming, where you get to learn the basic behaviors of how to be a member of a family and how to be a member of a community. You learn the rules by watching members of the family and watching members of the community. And I go, well, then those behaviors don't necessarily support where you want to go. And I go, absolutely not. I go, but 95% of the day we play them because 95% of the day the creative conscious mind is not being mindful, it's thinking. And thinking is an interior job. So when the conscious mind is busy thinking, everything is run by the program, subconscious mind. Science has found there's one time in our life, the equivalent of taking the red pill, and studied it anyway. And they said, when we fall in love, it's tantamount to taking the red pill because it's the first time in your life you stay mindful without even knowing you're doing it, actually. Meaning, look, you waited your whole life to find this very special person. And then they show up.
Right.
I say, do you think this is a good time to spend thinking? No, I don't want to think. I want to be here now with this person. So I'm not thinking. I go, oh, that's the first time in your life you didn't, stop thinking 5%. You're thinking 90%, you're not defaulting to the subconscious 95% of the time. When you're in love, your conscious mind, wishes and desires, is running the program. So essentially, that's taking the red pill. I go, and what is the consequence of taking the red pill? And the answer is beautiful for this reason. It's called the honeymoon. I said, what's the honeymoon? I said, that's that period right after you fall in love where life is the most beautiful thing ever you could ever imagine. Everything is better. The food's better. The music's better. Even the job you hate is not bad anymore. Everything is like, oh, I'm heaven on earth. I go, 24 hours ago and up to that 24 hours, the rest of your previous life was life sucks. 24 hours ago, you meet this person, and now it's heaven on earth. I go, 24 hours, what the hell happened? You stop playing the program, and you start creating life with wishes and desires. And when you started creating from wishes and desires, what do you think you manifested? Heaven on earth. As soon as we get out of the program, we have the opportunity to have heaven on earth. It's the programs of limitation. And is this idea new? Well, the biological mechanism, but here's a fact. The Jesuits have known about this for 400 years. The Jesuits have a saying, give me a child until it's 7, and I will show you the man. I said, what does that mean? They knew if I get a programming of the first 7 years, I do the programming, I control the life of the child. Why? Because 95% of the life of that child will be the program. And they've known that for 400 years.
It's funny how so many things like that, all we have to do is listen to it and think about it. We go, what are they really saying here? You know, then it becomes obvious.
That's the point. That's the point. People say, oh, yeah, I know that phrase. I've heard that phrase. They can tell me the phrase. I say, yeah, but what the hell does it mean? It's like, I said, no, think about what it means. What it means is they were telling you, I know you're controllable,
right.
and I can control you. And that's why Catholic schools, okay, they programmed them, okay? But then I go, a little idea like that, just because it's 400 years old, didn't disappear. That idea is very much alive and well today because the programming is better today than it was 400 years ago when the Jesuits started. We've all been programmed. And we need that red pill because if you take that red pill, you can get out of this program and then you can experience what life is really like.
Yeah,
and life is beautiful.
We definitely need to start erasing some of these tapes, you know, and I think it's information. Have you ever read any of Ken Carey, Starseed Transmissions or anything?
No, I haven't.
He was way back in the day and pretty good. But one of the things he talks about in one of his chapters is called Islands of the Future. And he said, in these days that you and I are living in right now, he says, what's going to happen is higher energies, higher transmissions are going to start coming in, but only a few people that are living in a privileged kind of a position to have quiet time, quiet moments, and absorb that information. Because Joe and Mabel down here with 3 or 4 or 5 kids, he doesn't have the time or the inclination to pick this up. But there are going to be other people, and this is sort of how I see people like us. You know, we're in a privileged situation to meditate, pull these inclinations down, and then put them out into the community in a linguistic way that Joe and Mabel can read it in a magazine or see it on a video and go, huh, that makes sense to me. And so by disseminating this information out in comprehensible ways is so important, Bruce. You know, I have never felt like my life has been as important as it is right now to do the work
Absolutely.
I'm
doing. It wasn't an accident that we both ended up in this situation.
Yeah.
This was part of our destination, that we are here to be guides, to say, look, there's another way outside that box, and it's better, healthier, you know, more viable than anything inside the box. And now that you see the box is corrupt, we don't have to go and fight the box. See, fighting the box is the biggest problem because I'm using a video. I haven't put it in my lecture yet, but I showed 2 electrodes, positive and negative. And I say, you put them together and what happens? Boom, sparks, fire, light. The electrodes burn down. They're all melted. I go, if you take your positive energy and try to go into that negative world to fix that negative world, then your positive energy and that negative energy are going to dissipate as heat and light, which is wasted energy. You want to keep your energies. Don't bother with this energy. Just take it, come back over on this side, merge with others with the same energy, so we're increasing the amplitude of this energy, okay? Basically, it says that the future that we're looking for right now is not going to be found by going into the existing system and fighting that system. The only way we're going to do it is what we've been doing already, and that is step outside of the system and say, screw the system. When you have the large majority of millennials that we have now, if they step outside the system with their collective power, they automatically have created a system bigger than the one they're leaving behind.
Yep, exactly.
So the idea is we're being pushed into a situation that says not sustainable, not tenable. I mean, this election and this whole thing is like, holy crap, you know, but this is the wake-up call. And how fast it's occurring is the biggest surprise to me. I knew it was inevitable because I know we couldn't build a sustainable planet on the foundation of that system that exists. And I knew it had to come down, but to see it topple in 100 days or less of Trump is like, whoa, this is gathering momentum. This is precipitating that evolution, and just in time.
Yep. And I see,
because we don't have a lot of,
I see Trump as an important integrated part into this, because what would it take to stand up to narcissistic, pathological psychopaths? It's going to take a really narcissistic person, and Trump is the guy that's going to go up against these people and start dismantling it, whether we like it or not, whether we like him or not, what he says. I think he's an important part of the dismantling of this system.
I agree 100%. It's not an accident. He's the guy that was put in place. Not that he's the guy that's the light of the day. He's the guy that will break the system to let the light come back through the system again. I would have, in my world, no connection with that guy at all, because he doesn't stand for anything that I'm talking about in the way of evolution, except that he is a great destructor. And in a world where we need to destruct the system to build one that will thrive.
Yeah, we just have to.
We
just have to remember that there's going to come a time where we can say, "Okay, Mr. Trump, down from the stage," and yank him out of there, because he's not going to want to leave.
It's coming.
Yeah, we're going to have to fire him.
Oh, he's not going to want to leave, but I inevitably, I think the bookies in Las Vegas have, some very high odds that number one, he'll never make it 4 years, and a lot of the odds are that he won't even make it 1 year.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a lot of awareness that this is not a viable situation, but it's a necessary situation.
Yep.
So Donald Trump is doing his job.
Absolutely.
I don't want to work with him. But I just, the outcome of what he's going to do is required for us to move into the future.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And people like you,
Hillary we would have failed with.
Well, Hillary would have.
We would have failed with.
Yeah, Hillary would have just
sustained it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bled it out longer.
Yep.
Just bled it out longer. In my newsletter I wrote, I said, it's sort of like when you have a wound and you put a Band-Aid on it. And you want to take it off, and you take it off very slowly because it hurts, all those little hairs being pulled out. You pull it very slowly, long time, and then you get it off. You go, "Phew, that was good." And I say, or you can do a Donald Trump, just rip the damn thing right off.
Yep.
And it's like he's the rip it off guy. So he's the one that we need. Why? Because the slow bleed is destructive, because it'll take us that much longer to come back.
Yep.
We need to stop this stuff yesterday.
And right now, while we still have resources, the sooner the better, really. So how would you like to end this, Bruce? What is your words of wisdom?
I'd like to end this with I very much appreciate being on this program with you. As we talked about, it must be 12 years.
Yeah.
So you and I were back there as this stuff was just beginning to heat up.
Right.
It wasn't even lukewarm when we started all this stuff. So being with you all these years, I greatly appreciate that. To see us both move into the future and not be, stopped in any way, but to continue our pursuit is very reassuring to me. It says, okay, I'm still on the right track.
Yep. And
that we have an audience is really very, wonderful as well, because we can live our own particular lives the way we want to live it. It's really, we're here to help other people learn how to live that life, how to recognize that we were given an opportunity to live on heaven. And that heaven, as expressed in the honeymoon situation, was doable if you get out of the program. So the whole idea is we don't have to destroy the planet. We just have to destroy the program.
Right.
And we're in this process right now. So my message for most people is, don't be afraid. When you see this thing falling down, you better be thankful for a reason as this. If it doesn't fall down, we're in a worse situation you could ever imagine. So I look forward every day. The more it collapses, I go, great. Why? Because there was no way to create a sustainable future on this existing situation. So the failure of the situation is the only doorway to a thrivable future. And you have been talking about this for years, and you've been publishing about this for years, and it's not for naught. It's just taken that long for the meek to sustain themselves while the dinosaurs implode, kill themselves, and we run out of their blood, the oil, which has been one of the bigger problems of the whole planet in the first place. So I see everything going really cool.
Well, there's nothing more powerful than an idea who's come. And this is a good idea you're talking about.
Especially when you and I started on these ideas a long time ago, when it was like, okay, we're alone out here in the desert. Is anybody out here with us, And we're still here.
Yep.
And that's a good sign. It says that, okay, we must be carrying some message that is worthy. And we must live our lives that other people see it and say, whatever they're doing, I want some of what they're doing. I want to know what they're doing. Because that way we can transcend the current situation and move into a world which is like given to us as a gift.
Yep.
And express it as that gift.
Well, we must be doing something right.
We're still here.
Yeah, and our magazine now, it's 3 times bigger. We're in 21 cities, and I have a TV show now every 3 weeks, and things keep evolving, and we do focus on health, but like in our last issue, we talked about the pipeline, and what we're doing to the Native Americans there and stuff. So it's good to have that platform to really get people to thinking and talking, Well, Bruce, I really appreciate your time so much, man. Seriously.
Oh, I want to thank you. I want to thank you because, what we do depends on having an audience.
Yeah.
If I don't have an audience, then all this wonderful stuff that I'm enjoying, I can't help get it out. And so, this is an opportunity for me. So I'm in deepest appreciation for all that you do to allow me to be here to have somebody listen. That's a cool plan.
Yep.
Okay.
That it is.
And so thank you so much. And I want to thank the audience because it's the audience that are the evolutionaries.
Yep.
It's the audience that this is not a passive evolution by any sense. This is not sit in your easy chair at home and wait for it to happen. This is a participatory evolution.
Absolutely.
Each one of us is engaged. And if you're not engaged, I'm sorry.
Yep.
But you're missing out on what is possible here.
Thank you very much, Bruce.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me be on your show with you. Thank you so much.